Welcome to my channel. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to my channel. Please subscribe. Enjoy watching. Please subscribe.
A 1923 BMW R32. Did you have any idea that BMW reaches back to the 1920s? The manufacturer was building engines for the German Air Force in World War I. But when the Treaty of Versailles was signed and the German Air Force was temporarily banned from building new aircraft, BMW was forced to diversify to stay afloat. As a result, the team at BMW manufactured their R32 motorcycle in 1923, just in time for the Roaring Twenties. BMW's flat twin boxer design made it to the shaft final drive became the blueprint for their future motorcycles, and that design is still used on plenty of the manufacturer's automobiles today. The R32 was built with a 494cc motor that gave the bike a top speed of 60 miles an hour and helped the rider make a quick escape when the feds raided their speakeasy. By today's standards, the BMW R32 almost looks more like a bicycle, but this model honed in on the classic look that would pop up over the century. This visual aesthetic is really timeless, and it's still one of the more desirable motorcycles amongst collectors and enthusiasts. 1937 Brough Superior SS100. For those of us who may not be able to afford a Rolls-Royce, the next entry on our list may be the next best thing. Dubbed the Rolls-Royce of motorcycles, the 1937 Brough Superior SS100 came with a guarantee from the company founder, George Brough, that the motorcycle could break the 100-mile-per-hour mark. The bike set a new standard for both speed and horsepower with its new and improved 990cc air-cooled 50-degree V-twin engine. At the time, anything with 30 horsepower was considered superior, but the Brough Superior SS100 really broke the mold with 48 horsepower. It was the world's first superbike and made a huge splash when it first roared onto the scene. It was so popular, in fact, that T.E. Lawrence, also known as the real Lawrence of Arabia, owned 8 of them. If it's good enough for a historical revolutionary, it's good enough for anyone. The bike was also custom-made to fit the specific needs of the driver, with every detail tweaked even down to the shape of the handlebars. The bike was lightweight to give it superior handling too, but despite the size, it was a powerhouse nonetheless. 1950 Vincent Black Shadow. There were some fast bikes out there, but in 1950, the Vincent Black Shadow became the fastest, with a top speed of 125 miles per hour, even surpassing the superfast SS100. The Black Shadow was able to crack the code with its beastly 55 horsepower or 998cc V-twin engine. And if it looks and sounds familiar, you're right, because it's been forever immortalized in Hunter S. Thompson's fever dream that is Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. The author famously wrote, if you rode the Black Shadow at top speed for any length of time, you would almost certainly die. That's why there's not many life members of the Vincent Black Shadow Society. And while that may not be totally true, it's pretty badass nonetheless. And if you were a motorcycle aficionado or just a plain speed freak back in the 50s, then getting your hands on the Black Shadow was at the top of your to-do list, and its record for being the world's fastest bike wasn't broken for over 2 decades. 1955 Moto Guzzi V8. You may not realize it at first glance, but the 1955 Moto Guzzi V8 packed quite the punch for something so small. Moto Guzzi is a prominent Italian racing bike manufacturer in the 1950s. They made this little guy for the likes of Fergus Anderson, Dickie Dale, and Stanley Woods, all of whom were some top racers of the time. They may not be household names today, but at that time, they were the cream of the crop, so it's easy to imagine how efficient the Moto Guzzi V8 is. The front of the chassis is almost shaped like a bullet, which makes sense considering it reached a top speed of 178 miles per hour in front of the crowd at the 1957 Belgian Grand Prix. And while it was an immensely powerful bike, it did suffer from some shortcomings in the tire and brake departments. But who needs brakes when all you want to do is go fast? Despite the Moto Guzzi's V8's faults, however, it still managed to race for 3 seasons and is still known as one of the greatest Grand Prix motorcycles of all time. And it also just looks flat out cool.